So it is good to go live for the first time here on Prime Sports Network, as we already have some viewers who are tuning in to the first live show here of hopefully many more to come. Don't forget, this is going to be an interesting kind of first show for May. Because we are going to have our Patreon accounts are starting once again, but we're going to have not only live show for 2 races, the Kentucky Derby, the Kentucky Oaks, that's coming up right now, but also for the Patreon viewers only, we're going to have a bonus show, a bonus race, and that is going to be which race, John?
The Pat Day Mile.
And that's race 8 on Saturday. So
correct.
That's only going to be available for Patreon viewers only. And then from now on, except for, the Preakness and the Belmont and special shows, 90% of our programming on Thursdays, of course, today's Wednesday, will be for Patreon members only. Don't forget, if you are not a Patreon member, you can watch an edited version of these shows that will not be available until Saturday, race day. All right, guys. So good to have you back again. Chad, how's everything going?
Everything's well. We spent a little bit of time in Kentucky this week. Had a chance to see all the Oaks and Derby contenders live in the flesh. And now we're freezing ourselves back in New York and hoping it doesn't rain on Saturday in Kentucky.
Oh, no. Is that a possibility?
55%.
This is the 149th running of the Kentucky Derby. I think everyone has been the possibility of rain. It lives in rain. It's the precipice of running in the first Saturday in May in the state of Kentucky. You always have a chance of rain at some point during the day. The first Derby I ever was able to participate in 2004. It rained so much that they actually had to delay the walkover for 10 minutes for the rain to subside a little bit. So we're used to the rain. The connections will be prepared. Ponchos will be had. But remember, don't bring umbrellas, because umbrellas will get confiscated in Churchill Downs if you walk in with an umbrella.
Yeah.
By the way, Rockface just wrote in that we have got, I guess his selection in the Pat Day Mile is Tall Boy. It's not my selection, but he's 20-1, so we never know. 20-1 shots.
All right. That's cool.
I know one thing. Tall Boy's a heck of a lot better than he ran in the UAE Derby against Dermot Sadagaki. And the ironic thing is, the Pat Day Mile is like 5 races before the Derby. If Tall Boy wins, for 2 hours on NBC Sports, they'll be talking about the fact that Tall Boy just won and he was 17th, 13th, beaten 40 lengths by Dermot Sadagaki in the UAE.
Well, the only good news, Chad, is that's not going to happen. So
it might.
Well, you can never say never. That's for sure.
By the way, this is one of the reasons why we like to go live, is because this is an opportunity for the viewers to interact with us live. And we already have, I could tell that a couple of the viewers started a chat before the show, and they were trying to, at least Rockface was trying to predict what you guys were going to go with for the Derby. And Rockface thinks Chad might have Disarm in the top 4 or Skinner. How about that? And this is an early prediction, because, by the way, do you guys want to do the Derby first or the Oaks?
Let's do the Oaks first.
Yeah, it's Friday. The Oaks is run before.
And Rockface thinks Angel of Empire is your horse, John.
No.
That was his nickname in high school.
Right.
So that's a tease, I guess. All right, so we're going to start with the Oaks. And so, again, if anybody have any question on any of these horses or anything regarding the race, just let us know, and we'll try to answer it for you. So this is going to go off about 5:50 on Friday. And we're going to take really what I liked about this race, John, is sheet-wise, a lot of horses heading in the right direction. The numbers are headed in the right direction. So there's really a lot to choose from here in this race.
I have to tell you the truth. To me, and this is only my opinion, the Oaks is such a much better betting race than the Derby. Because I think the Wet Paint, who's going to be the big favorite, I think is vulnerable, where I think the favorite in the Derby is stronger than Wet Paint. So
Can I tell you something crazy?
Go ahead.
I wish, and with these point system, and we'll talk about it a little bit when we get to the Derby. And I mean, even with the points here, I mean, 2 of the best fillies, aren't in. Punch Bowl, Julia Shining. I mean, it's really disappointing.
Why?
And Philly. But the thing to me that's the saddest of all is there's so much speed in the Oaks and there's so little speed in the Derby.
Right.
I wish one or two of these fillies could have run in the Derby because it would have been more of a realistic pace scenario. This race is loaded with early speed, and I think that's going to play a very big impact in how the race is run.
Before we get going here, I thought it would be a good time to take a look, because this is not mid-season, but we're almost there, and that is from your predictions at the beginning of the season. So I asked you guys which fillies are your top 3 horse of the year candidates. Chad, you had Nest, Secret Oath, and Who's Your Filly?
Those are older horses.
Okay.
Right.
How are they doing?
Well, Nest is recovering from an illness. We'll see her in Saratoga. Secret Oath will win the Lie Trienne at an overlay price at whatever she is morning line. She'll be 3-1, 7-2. They'll bet a Mulray for Brad Cox, and I think Secret Oath can't lose. And Hoosier Filly will be sitting in her stall waiting to go to Hoosier Park. She hasn't
taken returned to her 2-year-old form. That's
from
for
2
sure.
to 3, but I'm still hopeful that she can re-find it, and not running here. We'll see if she ends up in a race like the Black Eyed Susan, or maybe just stay home at Churchill and get some home cooked meals and get kind of back on track. It'll be interesting to see what trainer Tom Amos does in that time frame. I'm not sure. He's got a couple suspensions coming up. I'm not sure actually when he'll be serving his days, but shouldn't be. I think it's only 15 or 30, so he'll be back relatively quickly.
Yeah, but that doesn't affect the horse if the horse is going to run. Yeah.
No, just curious as to where.
I mean, look at Baffert. He's been suspended for 2 years. His horses are still running in Kentucky.
So at this point, who's your filly would be considered a disappointment?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. By the way, John's prediction for top horse of the year candidate is racing in the Kentucky Oaks. Wonder Wheel.
He doesn't remember who it is.
Wonder Wheel.
Yes.
Okay.
So.
Well, she's at least in it, so I'm not disqualified yet. But.
Okay. Which 2-year-old male will have a breakthrough and why? Chad, you had Tapper Trice.
Whoa.
There you go.
He's in the Derby.
So we'll
He's
see.
In the Derby with a very, very live chance in the Derby.
John had Arabian Night, Instant Coffee, and Forte.
Oh, Forte made it.
I love how you have no recollection at all of what happened in December.
Give a top 3 for early horse of the year and why. Chad had Nest, Taiba, and Elite Power.
Well, Elite Power's undefeated.
Yeah.
He's 1-for-1. We'll see him again in Saratoga.
And Taiba, by the way, is John's pick too.
Taiba is an interesting horse. He hasn't gone back on the work tab yet. Disappointed for $20 million after winning the Malibu. Look forward to seeing the plans for him second half of the year. Bob Baffert's suspension is over. The Whitney is 1 1/8 as opposed to the 1 1/4 of the Pacific Classic. I would imagine that would be the target, would be perhaps seeing him next in the race like the Whitney at Saratoga. And who was the third one?
The third one was Nest.
Yeah, Nest again.
Recovering.
She's back. She's back on the work tab now. I think she's up in Saratoga, and look forward to seeing her get going. It's good when you're an owner of Mike Rapoli and you can have a horse like Nest just sitting on the back burner as one of your other 297 horses in the barn right now is a favorite in the Kentucky Derby on Saturday. And by the way, and bringing everything full circle, has a horse in the Kentucky Oaks with a live shot at a big price.
Also, name any horses that you're going to follow the most for a variety of reasons and why. Chad, you had Derby winner Rich Strike.
Yes.
So
he's back. He's back. He's made a lot of news not running. They thought he would run in Pegasus. They thought he'd run in Saudi. They thought he'd run in Dubai. They thought he'd run in
running Saturday at Churchill. Isn't he running?
He runs. I think it's Friday. The Ali Shiva.
Oh, Friday. Yeah.
He runs Friday in the Ali Shiva. He was schooling with the Kentucky Derby horses, reliving. It's almost like coming back for homecoming after you're a freshman in college. He came back and was schooling with the Kentucky Derby contenders earlier this week. Look, I hate for people to make this into a running joke because he hasn't won since the Derby last year. He had some good races in the Travers and the Jeff Ruby, and I mean in the Lucas Classic where unfortunately it was mirrored in self-inflicted, controversy with the shoe issue. The horse he's a nice horse. I'm looking forward to seeing his 4-year-old debut. And to be honest with you, I don't know what he is morning line. I don't know if you want to look it up, John.
He's 7-2. He's ridiculous at 7-2. He has zero chance. He's 7-2.
I think you're incorrect. I'm going to use Rich Strike at his favorite track.
Churchill
Downs, where he has a great record, other than last time when he ran last time on the Clark as a tired horse. He shouldn't have run back.
He's 2 for 4.
Rich Strike. He's 2 for 4.
Churchill.
2 for 4 to the second. He also only had 2 career wins.
Okay, well, but he's not winning. 7-2 is a joke. I'll play the horse for lunch, Chad. Who do you want?
Who do you want in there?
Oh, you want Rich Strike? I could take 5 horses again. No, I think he's bouncing off the 3, to be honest with you. I kind of like the 6, Milliken.
Okay, horse for horse.
Okay.
Milliken against Rich Strike?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm taking 10-1 shot. He's taking a 7-2 shot.
I'm taking a horse schedule for non-winners of 3 life.
And by the way, the horse to follow the most and for why, John's horse that he picked is actually the same horse that Chad picked for a horse that could end up either being disappointing or overrated. Do you remember that horse, Chad?
Was it Rich Strike?
No. No? Don't remember?
I don't have a clue.
Giant Mischief.
Well, I got that one right. He's on a farm somewhere in Kentucky rehabbing. I don't think he earned a Kentucky Derby point. I think he was a complete disappointment as predicted. So at least I got one of those predictions.
So he was like a top Derby, like people were putting money on him to win the Derby early on?
What you would call the University of North Carolina's basketball program last year. An early preseason number 1 who finished with declining an invitation to the NIT.
Okay.
I love the Pathé Mile.
By the way, before we continue, Chad donated 2 of these collector item Mind Your Biscuit caps that he wants to give out tonight to listeners. So I don't know, Greg.
Right, so we're gonna have this is what we're going to do. We're going to have one trivia question, and the first one to answer live in the chat is going to get it. And then the other one is everyone give their Derby picks, and whoever picks the winner, we'll pick out of a hat. And that one will also receive a hat. So we'll have one for the live show and then one for the live and anybody that goes back and listens to the replay of this. So
they're really good hats, by the way.
The trivia
question cheap. These were good.
The trivia question is a very easy one. When I was in Churchill Downs with Mind Your Biscuits for 2 months, running in the Lucas Classic and running in the Breeders' Cup Classic at Churchill Downs with Mind Your Biscuits, I rented a very nice house. Did I or did I not get my security deposit back? The first one to answer correctly.
No, I'd say no, and I don't even know. And I say
Is that your for real trivia question?
That's my for real trivia question.
Okay.
So the first one to answer
yes or no. Okay.
Gets
That's
that.
Great. And then the last prediction, by the way, I wanted to throw out there was who will be Breakthrough Stable of the Year. Chad, you remember what you predicted?
Absolutely. My man, Lynn Cash, Built Right Stable. I think they've had 1,000 starters already this year. I think I'm halfway right on that one.
Let's see. Bluegrass Dan was the first one that said NIO. I think that's no.
That's the winner. We did not get our safety deposit back. They said that there was a scuff on the table in the bedroom. And so they refused to give him my security deposit back of $1,500, by the way. It was a lot of money.
At that, yeah. I mean, did you fight them?
I tried to, but I had Mind Your Biscuits money at the time, so I didn't care. That was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And Bluegrass.
Now we give away hats on the podcast.
And Bluegrass does have a Patreon subscription, I believe. Right? Right, John?
Yes, Bluegrass Dan. I've gotten emails from the fellow.
So, great.
He's like a nice guy.
So we have his email. So Bluegrass will connect with you, and we'll get your information. So
that's one hat, and the second hat will go to after the show's over, or even live in the chat now. Everyone can give their Derby selection winner, and whoever wins, we'll put all the names in a hat, and we will pick a lucky winner of those that pick the winner.
All right, now as we turn our attention to previewing the Kentucky Oaks, Rockface has a question regarding the Oaks, and he was wondering, Chad, what you thought of this Mimi Kikuchi running in the Oaks.
Actually, I spent the morning on Tuesday with Team Mimi Kikuchi in the quarantine barn over there in in Churchill Downs with trainer Salim bin Gadea, who's actually 90% blind. He trains a lot by feel and touch, it's an amazing thing, an amazing story. They've come all the way here from Dubai for the Crown Prince Sheikh Hamdan Al Maktoum. The horse is going to run in the Godolphin Lycée name as the owner because he's not licensed here, but it will run his silk. So you might see on the PPs, you'll see Godolphin as the owner, but it's going to run in the baby blue silks, not the royal blue silks of Godolphin that we're used to seeing. Look, she's a nice filly. They spent a lot of money for her, $250,000 back in the Timonium sale in Maryland last year. It took her a little while to get underway. In fact, her exercise rider, Xavier, actually rode her first time out in a 4th place finish. As the distances got a little bit further, she got a little bit better. She did everything the right way. The question will be what she beat and how she beat them. Her Guineas trial was very impressive. Her UAE Oaks was okay. She beat a Doug O'Neill horse in that day to run second. That was second behind her. Both thought they were going to go right to the Kentucky Oaks, so they skipped running in the UAE Derby to be a fresh filly for this race. Doug's filly didn't qualify on points, so she won't make it. I think she's going to run maybe in the Black Eyed Susan. But Mimi's a nice horse. The interesting thing with Mimi here is breaking from the rail with her rider, and some people might not know the name Mikel Barcelona, but he is one of the top jockeys in the world. He's one of the top jockeys when he rides over there in the carnival. And he's an aggressive rider. Now, her running style has been to kind of stalk late 3rd or 4th and make kind of that early move. Breaking from the rail, I'm hopeful that he'll be able to break and stalk, but I'm fearful that he may break and have to send out of there to get himself in good position. And, I just hope he doesn't use too much horse early on in the race. Connections are very brave for taking on this assignment and coming, traveling around the world. They actually, they flew into Chicago and then drove from Chicago to Louisville. The filly spent 3 days in Chicago in quarantine first. She looks well. She's very, very happy here. She's trained forwardly. But at the end of the day, I feel like, 3rd, 4th, 5th would be kind of maybe her ceiling. I think it'll be very difficult for her to win. But Connections will be proud if she's able to hit the board or complete the superfecta. And I applaud them for coming out here and trying in what I think is really a wide open Oaks field. You mentioned before, John, it's a big betting race, but to me, it's a very competitive field. I don't think there's a standout in here. The Derby, there's maybe a few more standouts than at the Oaks.
That's what makes it a good betting race.
The thing is, John, on Mimi, just to finish Rockface's point here, and I know the regs and sheets don't often make numbers for international races, but they have made numbers for Mimi, and what are those?
Slow, very slow compared to the other horses. She runs 18s, I think, and you need 17 and 19 in her last 2 races. She's not fast enough.
Yeah, the only good thing is she's headed in the right direction, but like John said, 17 is the best so far. So,
but if you talk about a hot barn, trainer Salim bin Gadea, who actually had a relatively quiet year this year in Dubai, but him and his family own camels and train camels. And they were 2 races the week after the Saudi Cup in Saudi Arabia. There was 2 races, a $20 million race for the boys, and I think a $12 million race. Now that was in
camels,
Saudi money, so it was $2 million US for camels. And Salim bin Gadea actually won both races.
If you lost, you made into a camel burger. I know I have a friend that was there. That had a camel burger.
I did eat a camel burger when I was in Saudi Arabia. And then with Salim wanted me to have some camel milk, which was the first and last time I will ever have camel milk.
You drew the line? Oh, you drank it?
Thought I was on the show Fear Factor.
By the way, so would you disagree with Rock's assessment? Because he wanted to know what you thought about the horse, but he actually thought that it's possible that the trainer / owner had lost the plot sending her over from the UAE, or questioned whether or not Mimi had lost the plot. In other words, obviously, why would
Look, there's a lot of flack in this, and this will move forward when we talk about the Derby with Dermot Sadagaki, that there hasn't been a lot of horses that have had success from the UAE Derby. Look, in a world of international racing, I like this. Okay, I've been a big proponent of it. I've traveled around the world myself competing in these kind of races. People have questioned if I've lost the plot on a day-to-day basis. I wanted them to be here. I thought they deserved the chance to be here, and I don't think she's going to embarrass herself. If that's Rock's kind of true assessment, I think she can beat at least half the field. So, wow. I don't think they've lost the plot. And Sheikh Hamdan, who's the son of Sheikh Mohammed, and he's the next in line to actually take over as the ruler of Dubai. Eventually, I think it's good for him to come here. He hasn't really had too many runners here, so it's good. I don't think he's not going to be here on Friday, but looking forward to seeing his colors competing under the Twin Spires.
Did he travel with Sotogaki Kamaki, whatever?
No, they actually they traveled separately.
Really?
They're in different quarantine. So even though they're both in Dubai, they're on different quarantine visas and passes. And the Japanese horses, Dermot Sadagaki and Continuar, actually came over about 2 weeks earlier than Mimi. Mimi came over relatively late. She actually flew on the 19th of April. And the other two were here about 2 weeks before that. So
the other ones have been here a month. She's only been here like maybe.
She's been here a couple of weeks. Yeah, she's been here a couple of weeks, and she flew private. She flew private from Dubai.
Why not?
She had all the space. She had the extra space seat on the plane. That's for sure.
By the way, Bluegrass Dan said, "Keep the table." Yes, $10 sub, which means yes. I guess he has a $10 subscription to. But keep the table? Is he saying keep the hat? Is that what you're saying, Bluegrass? Or
I'm sure we'd like
is keep the table the name of a horse? No?
We'll get clarification from him.
By the way, because Ramon Calzadius answered the question no right after Bluegrass Dan. So if Bluegrass Dan does not want the hat, we can give it to Ramon.
Why wouldn't Bluegrass Dan want
I don't know. He said keep the table. I don't know what the table is.
Keep the table.
We'll find out anyway.
Right,
Moving to the Kentucky Oaks field here. So Mimi Kizinski is the the one horse.
What do you feel about the one, John?
No, the one I'm looking at numbers. The numbers are just too slow.
Are you Rockface saying that they've lost the plot though?
I don't know what that means, honestly.
They don't belong in the race.
Yeah, it's gone nuts.
That's what Rich Strike. You could have said that last year about Rich Strike too. Didn't he lose the plot?
I'm pretty sure I said that live on the show last year.
Listen, there's only one way to win it, and you got to be in it. So, nothing wrong with trying.
What Bluegrass Dan meant was the table at the rental house.
Yes.
Oh, you should have taken the table with your home.
That's what I said. You don't understand. I said that. They said it's ruined. It's all scuffed. I said, well, if you're not going to give me my deposit back, give me the table. And they didn't have an answer for me on that. I tried. I said, I'll take the table. If it's such a beautiful, beautiful table. I felt like I was in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. It was ridiculous.
All right.
Dan came up with a great comeback. Keep the tables.
You know what? We got to add that to a possible horse name in the future. Keep the table.
Keep the table.
I like that. All right, moving on to the number 2.
All right, the 2 is Alice. The Alice look. Brad Cox horse, Castellano on board. Pretty slow last year, John, but a 14 and a 15 this year, ran third at the Fairground Oaks Grade 2 race last time out.
Yeah, I don't like the 15 last time out off the 14 with time off. I think she should have moved forward. The fact that she didn't last time out, to me, is somewhat negative, and I would play against.
I mean, the question with her is the drama surrounding the jockey. No offense to jockey Javier Castellano, who is a ready replacement, but at about 10:30 in the morning of the draw, Luis Saez was named and was supposed to ride the Alice look. And look, he had choices. He could have rode Grand Motions filly that he was so impressive with in Gulfstream, Affirmative Lady. He could have rode the Ali's look, and nobody saw this coming.
He found out that I love the horse that he went to, so he's listening to me.
he ended up switching to Darth Vader for a trainer that he doesn't really ride that much for in Florida, and Michael Yates. Upsetting a big barn in the Brad Cox stable he rides a lot for. So that was more of the drama surrounding the horse more so than anything else. Look, on her best day, She was good too back when she beat Chop Chop. It was a great ride from Luis Saez, who not only rode to win the race, but rode to beat Chop Chop, knowing she was the horse in the race. But Chop Chop ultimately is probably a turf horse. And look, this filly's run behind Brandon Walsh's horse twice, the Godolphin filly. So to me, I just think she's too slow.
All right. The number 3 is Gambling Girl. An interesting long shot at 15 to 1. I doubt we're going to get 15 to 1 with the Pletcher Irad Ortiz combo, but you never know. She's lost 5 straight races, so that could be a big reason. But if you take a look at the sheets, John, she's coming off that 12, the 12 best of her career, but it's a new point. It's a new top of 5 points actually. So the bounce factor is definitely in play.
You analyzed it perfectly, Greg. It's a 5-point new top for a filly without any time off of that race. She ran that on April 8th, so she's coming back, a little more than 3 weeks. That's not enough time for a 3-year-old filly.
At first glance, I was really against this filly. I agreed with everything you guys said, and she's not that big of a filly. But then I went back to looking, and I went back to remembering that day. And that day was speed crazy, okay? The fact that she was able to close against a couple of other fillies that are okay. I thought Todd's other 2 horses in the race were okay that day. They didn't show up at all. I thought Capella, Bonnie South Sisters, okay, and she didn't really show up for Brad Cox. And Ray Handel's horse was able to kind of walk the dog on the lead and win like most horses did on the day. To me, for her to close and make up that ground, and look, I'm going to make a comparison here, and it's probably not fair to the other horse I'm going to compare her to, but Princess of Sylmar did the same thing for Todd Pletcher many moons ago, running second in the Gazelle, and then Pletcher decided to move forward to the Oaks, and the rest is history. She was much the best winner that day in the Kentucky Oaks with Mike Smith. I made a fortune that day. I absolutely loved her. This filly's not the same big, strong, stout filly that Princess of Sylmar was, but she has similar kind of, metrics that interest me. And in a race, and we'll talk about this further as it goes on to the rest of the field, in a race that's loaded with speed, if it falls apart, which I really think that it has the prospects of falling apart, then this filly is live at a piece. I don't think she can win, but I do think she can pick up a big piece of this in exact as it tries. And I know it's Pletcher and Irad, but she should be 15 to 1, and I think she stays around 15 to 1 just with the strength of the others in the field. So I'm going to use her underneath in a lot of different spots and play with her because I do think that she'll be closing in a race that might fall apart.
By the way, Chad, my theory on that, where she closed on a day when it was all speed, makes the effort that much stronger.
Sure, I understand.
You know what I mean? It was something that you couldn't do. So isn't that make that more of a taxing race on her? Well, I think it does. I could be wrong.
The question is ultimately with these 3-year-olds, and we're still so young into the year. I know it's May, and I know we started the show talking about it's the midway point of the year and stuff like that. But I mean, ultimately, 3-year-olds get better, right? We've seen them get better 2 to 3, and so yes, it's a new high, it's a new top. I get it. But is it possible that this is now the new normal for her and she can move forward off of this? It would be one thing if it's an older horse when you're looking at and you're analyzing the sheets and it's an older horse that runs a big number that pops from out of nowhere, then you want to give them the more time to recover. But a younger horse, I feel like they have a little bit more, ability.
A license to move forward.
Yeah. So just for that reason, I take everything you say with the utmost of respect, but I do think there's a chance that as a 3-year-old, she can continue to improve.
Okay.
Next up is the 4 South Lawn, an 8 to 1 shot. This horse pretty slow last year, John, but this year 2 for 2, won the Grade 2 Fairground Oaks last time out, and has run a 12 and then a 14.
Well, I mean, she ran the 12 when getting Lasix for the first time. She came off of Lasix last time out, and she reacted to the 14. I mean, she's on the bubble for me. I just like other horses in the race that I think are better. I don't know. I mean, she would be on the lower group of horses for me. I don't particularly like her, and I think there are horses that are longer prices that have much better chances.
If you look back at her last 2 races, to me, there's a chance that she can just repeat that and she wins the race. However, both those races are at Fairgrounds. Now we're back at Churchill. I know she's trained there most of the year and it's her home track, but
her two worst races, by the way, were at Churchill last year.
Right. And she was so good last time, but I've went back and I've watched that race a bunch. I can't figure that race out. I think maybe a couple of jocks moved a little too early in that race. It was a small field, a 5-horse field, and Ray Lou Gutierrez, who is an up and coming jockey, he's going to be a top 10 jockey here in the next couple of years, if he's not already. And he rode a smarter race. I really just felt like he rode a smarter race. He bided his time. He waited. The race kind of fell apart, and he was there to make the last move, which ended up being the winning move. I mean, all credit to Ray Lou for winning that race. And again, if he repeats that effort, she's very tough. But, I agree with you, John. It's going to be a little bit of a different race, a little bit of a bigger field, and I do prefer others a little bit more.
Keep in mind, South Lawn, 2 for 2 on off tracks, and I guess we should mention that there's a possibility of rain.
Absolutely.
They said 55%, but I will tell you that track dries up faster than any track in the country, I think.
By the way, is that for Friday and Saturday?
Both days.
Both days?
Yeah.
All right, the 5 is Wonder Wheel. This is John's horse, Wonder Wheel. John's horse from the beginning of the season. Rosario on board at 12-1, 2 for 2 at Churchill. The sheet line, John, is pretty nice. It's very slowly 17, then to 16, then to 15, then to 14.
They're little improvements, and that's what you want to see.
Yep.
You don't want to see a horse make that big jump like Gambling Girl did. This horse is slowly improving. She was highly regarded as a 2-year-old, and if you look at her sheet, she's never gone backwards.
Nope.
Every single race is better than the previous one, and she's had 7 starts. She's coming back closer than she usually does, but there's nothing you can do about that. And her races last year at Churchill, she was 2 for 2. So I have no problem with this horse. I'm certainly using her as the horse that I'm keeping.
Wonder Wheel was my pick in the Breeders' Cup last year, and she came through for us. I was expecting
she won the Eclipse too.
Yeah, I was expecting her to come back as a 3-year-old, and I gave her a pass in the first race at Tampa because she looked like she wasn't ready. She needed the race from a conditioning standpoint. And she came back and ran in the Ashland, which was the toughest race of all the preps. And it ended up costing Punch Bowl and Julia Shining and Wonder Wheel. I mean, Wonder Wheel wasn't in this race until just a few days ago. It ended up costing her a possible spot in the Oaks. When you watch the race, she looks like a winner, like 2 or 3 different times in the race. She looks like she's a winner. She looks like she's a winner. And then she just kind of flattened out. Now, did she need one more race? And now this will be the 3rd race off the layoff. I can make that case for her. And did Tyler Gaffney switch to Brandon Walsh because it looked like Wonder Wheel wasn't going to get in because he loves Wonder Wheel? I can see that 100%. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm 95% certain that's what it is.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
However, at the end of the day, she's looked a little flat. She's run off in the morning time. She's very difficult to train lately at Churchill Downs. The reports that we're receiving from over there are that she's not been up to par with what some of these other horses have looked like in the morning time, and that's a concern. At 15-1, I have to use her. I have to respect her, and I can definitely see her running a race to win. But I'm going to be tepid about it because I'm concerned about how she's trained going into this race.
All right, one of the top contenders is Botanical, the 6 at 4-1. This is a Brad Cox trained horse, basically trying to pull what Rich Strike did last year in winning the Derby after racing primarily on synthetics. So the sheets.
There's a little difference. This horse is 4-1. Rich Strike was 100-1 or whatever.
Difference. She won her races at synthetic and did not.
Yeah, the sheets are solid this year. 16, 12, and 12.
Yeah, but I don't want this horse. She's never been on dirt. I mean, she could certainly win. Don't get me wrong. But do you want to bet a horse that's 4-1 on the morning line doing something she's never done before and against a field like this? I think that's crazy.
John, I know you hate synthetic in general. And
no, just Turfway, especially Turfway.
You hate Turfway. But ultimately, at the end of the day, when you look at sheets every day, right? So you've had to encounter this situation a lot, especially now that Gulfstream synthetic and so many of these other places. How do you handicap? How do you analyze? Yes, I understand what you're saying. 4-1, trying something new for the first time. I get it, but how do you analyze a synthetic number and try and equate it with a dirt number? Or is that not even possible?
It's not well. People will tell you it's possible. It's not. But in this situation, to be honest with you, when you get to a race like this, you could look up the breeding, and this horse's relatives were really dirt horses, to be honest with you. They weren't synthetic or turf horses. So that's what's a little bit of a concern. And that's why if the horse won, I wouldn't be shocked. But I'm just saying on a personal note, I can't play a horse gambling. From a gambling point of view, at 4-1, you just can't take a short price on a horse like this. I understand it's Cox and everything else that goes with it. It's just a bad betting proposition.
I do like the fact that she's very comfortable when she makes the lead. She has a nice fluid stride on the synthetic. She was able to sit off really, really hot early fractions in the Cincinnati Trophy 2 starts back. There's a lot to like. And I like the fact that Brad Cox sticks with Chris Landeros, who's 4 for 4 on her. She obviously could have gone a lot of different ways.
Isn't his son his agent?
Yes, his son is his agent. But at the end of the day, Brad Cox wants to win at Grade 1.
Yeah.
He can buy his son a trophy. Whatever the case may be, he wants to win a Grade 1. But I do think in this situation, the guy's undefeated on the horse. He's done nothing wrong. So I'm glad that he sticks around and gets an opportunity to ride in this race. Look, he's a very, very good jockey, and he deserves to be in this kind of a race. So certainly rooting for them. But I agree with John. I think
you want that's we're talking about gambling and making money. You know,
yeah. I just think ultimately I'm not sure she's good enough for some of these others. She took the road less traveled, which is fine. It got her here. And to Greg's point with Rich Strike, it worked for Rich Strike. But I just think there's others that are here that are just a little bit better than her. That's all. But I love the breeding, by the way. She's by a Medaglia d'Oro to a Blame mare. I absolutely love this pedigree.
By the way, John, and I'm not saying the odds are going to be that way, but what odds would you feel comfortable with in this situation?
On who? Baton? I would never key this horse. I would include her. I would use her defensively if I was keying a longer priced horse. I'm not. I just don't.
So even if this horse was 10-1, you wouldn't bet her?
Key her? No, never. Oh, okay. She's unknown to me.
Okay.
It's kind of like, we'll get to it, but that horse that's running in the Derby, 3 fills or whatever, he went to Turfway and ran a 5. He ran a 5 out of nowhere. So it's a reverse there. He moved way up on synthetic, and now he's back to dirt, but he's not going to run anyway because he's going to bounce off of that 5. But I can't bet this horse. I just, okay. I don't bet horses like that. It's like betting a turf horse running on the dirt for the first time. Do they win? Of course they win. But at a short price, there's no edge in it.
Is there also a chance that the formula needs to be tweaked for the sheet numbers at Turfway?
No. Oh, for Turfway, maybe.
All right, the 7's the favorite. Wet Paint. Pratt, 3 for 3. Another Brad Cox trained horse coming off a 10 in the last start. That's a 4-point top with the last 2 races when she ran 14s, John.
She has a shot to repeat the 10. I don't think she's going to move forward, but I think she's more likely to react. But again, it's Cox. The horse is 3 for 3. She's won with all 3 of these races this year. And you can look at it like she's really never done anything wrong either. 22, 15, 14, 14, 10. But is the 10 the end of the line? That's the question. And she's the favorite. So that's not a foolproof favorite. I think she's vulnerable. I'm using her. I'm definitely using her. She's a nice horse, but I'm not keying her at this short price here.
I think that she's a must-use in a race with so much early speed. My problem with her is she just absolutely spins her wheels early. She has no early pace whatsoever. She makes Tapit Trice look like Kona Gold. Like she wants nothing to do early on with anything to do with what's going on in front of her. And I mean, when you watched that race last time, if you backed her, and she was actually, the odds weren't terrible. Like she was she 8-5 last time or 6 to
3-5? But go
5. And when you turn for home,
the race starts back. She was worse. She looked like she was going to finish last.
Yeah, No, I mean, she made a huge move at the end of the race and was a much the best winner at the end of the day. But there's concern, and now you're going to a 14 horse field with 14 quality fillies. With, again, in my mind, there's going to be so much early pace. Horses are going to be backing up. The horses that don't want to go that far, and they're going to back up. And look, Flavian Pratt's a great jockey. Off to a little bit of a slow start this year, but a great jockey. He needs to work out the trip. And for me, as the favorite, I'll use her. I'll use her in my multi-race wagers, but I'd like to try and beat her here because she needs everything to go her way to win this race.
The 8 is a long shot. Promiser America coming off a 12, a 5-point top. So the bounce factor is definitely in play, but at least you're getting 30-1. 2 straight wins, including that grade 3 win at Aqueduct last time out, John.
30-1 is an underlay. The horse is reacting for sure. Lightly raced. She's got to go backwards.
I wouldn't take this horse at 300-1.
Oh.
Trainer Ray Handel won his first graded stake race with this filly in his first try in 800 tries. The bottom line is this filly got caught on a loose lead where she has no shot. There is 0 shot she makes a loose on the lead here. I don't even think she's fast enough to make the lead. So right away, she's going to be laying 3rd or 4th at best, and she's just going to go fading away from there. We've done very well. I've made these wagers with John's son the last couple of years. You can pick who's going to run last in the Derby, and we've got it right every time so far. I hope they have a future wager of who's going to run last in the Oaks, because I will circle this thing and put a ring around it. She will run last.
Oh, running last. Okay, I like it. Next up is the 9, and Tell Me No Lies. I guess
no lies. You tell Jonathan that his mic's muted.
What's that?
Jonathan's mic's muted if he wants to unmute his mic and participate.
Do you hear us? There he is.
I went to plug the charger in because it looked like I was dying, but thank you, Chad.
Did you? Okay. Did you talk about the 8, John?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, just making sure.
I said she's bouncing to the moon.
Okay. All right, the 9 is and Tell Me No Lies, 15-1 shot. The sheets look pretty decent. Last 4, 18-18, 16-15. Of course, the 16-15 this year, John. A couple of runner-up finishes this year in a grade 2 and a grade 3 at 15-1.
The line is nice. However, the price isn't nice because there are faster horses in the race that are longer prices. So no thanks.
The line might be nice, but watching the replays, it doesn't give you that warm, fuzzy feeling inside. I mean, Jackie Ramon Vasquez made a huge middle move last time, and she just completely flattened out. And I understand Baffert's not in the race, and Baffert's filly that won the San Diego Oaks will probably win the Black Eyed Susan as a fresh filly. But she's in the race, and she deserves to be here because she keeps clunking up for pieces. And I think Jackie Ramon Vasquez is an underrated rider with a very, very bright future. But I just don't see it from this filly. She just doesn't have that will to win. She has that will to pick up a piece. I can see her running 3rd or 4th, but I'd be lying if I think that I thought she was going to win.
The 10 is an interesting long shot, Flying Connection. You have Giroux on board. The sheets look nice this year so far, John. 15, 14, and 13. And even if you look at last year, the first 4 races all went in the right direction, ending with 14 and 13. The horse has won 2 straight and 4 out of the last 5, and you're getting 15-1.
And the trainer is a terrific trainer. This Todd Fincher wins. He ships to Del Mar every summer, and he wins races there. He's a good trainer. The horse is okay. I'm definitely using her. But again, those races were at Zia Park and Sunland. Not quite the same competition that she faced, that other horses in this race.
By the way, just so you know, I think, Chad, I think your mic is rubbing up against some stuff. It's making a lot of noise.
Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Go right ahead, sir.
Can't be me. I was muted.
Look, it's funny you mentioned he ships to Del Mar and wins because he shipped this really to Del Mar and she lost.
Okay, fine. I said other horse.
Time she got beat by Tell Me No Lies. She went to Zia, and she returned as a 1-9 favorite when she came back. It was almost she reminded me. I know we're using some different metaphors here lately, but like when a college football team plays like the University of Ohio, like the Ohio State University, and they get beat, 87-6, and then they come back and they're playing, their homecoming against their, Division II rivals, and they're the big favorite.
Yeah,
and they win.
beat up all their crappy conference opponents. Yeah,
she's a superstar at Zia Park, even though she lost one time. She's ridiculously fast, or she was when she was sprinting. I don't know what. I don't think she's possible to go 21, 43, 55 like she did at Zia Park. So I don't know where those numbers are or what those numbers are. She looked really good when she trained the other day. When I watched her on the track, she's very happy filly. And I don't think she necessarily needs the lead, but she needs to be up close to the lead. She is the fastest horse on paper if those fractions are real at Zia Park. And I think she's part of the early pace fraction. Again, with wet paint, though, I would imagine that they're going to send Botanical to set it up for wet paint. So I think Botanical goes, Mimi Kokishi goes, this filly goes, Promise Me America goes. There's just so much early speed that this horse either makes the lead and fades, or isn't able to make the lead and just isn't fast enough. So it's tough for me to find a race where she does win, but she does try. I'll give her that. She has, if you watch her replays, I mean, she likes to run. She likes what she does. So I can see her, completing a try or a superfecta at a little bit of a price, but I don't think she can win.
By the way, this is Bluegrass Dan's selection. Flying Connection in the Oaks. All right, let's move on to the 11. Defining Purpose, a 12-1 shot coming off a 5-point top. Actually ran a 16 last time out, but the 15 was in January. Coming off a 10 in a Grade 1 win in the Ashland Stakes, John, at Keeneland.
No, I think she's bouncing. I don't like her at all.
She's run every other race. Every other race she's run well. Her exercise rider, Irving, did a great job with her this winter. He's no longer there. He's back on Team Brad Cox. And I think losing your a core member of the team going into a big race like this, I think is a big deal. And it's not something that I take lightly. I really value keeping a team together, whether it be the groom, the exercise rider, the hot walker, whatever. And with Irving no longer getting on her every day, I do think that's a big deal. And I know she worked 47 and change the other day, but I'm against her. I don't like when you make a change like that.
Another intriguing long shot is the 12 Darth Vader, a 20-1 shot with Saez on board, 4-for-8 lifetime. The sheets, the last two are 13s. Also ran a 13 last December, John. So what about the 12 Darth Vader?
Well, this is my key in the race. The horse is 20-1. Louis Saez chose this horse. That's good enough for me. And she's on the improve. I was having lunch today with a very smart handicapper, and he questioned the possibility of her being able to get the distance. So I guess that should be a concern of mine. However, the horse is 20-1. And for that reason, at the price, to me, it's a no-brainer. This is the right horse to key. She's as good or better than anything else we've seen so far as the numbers are concerned. And she's a price. So, and by the way, I do like the jockey change to Louis Saez, and I think I like this horse. I'm betting her, despite what Chad told me at lunch today.
I think she's right because she should be a price. One, she needs the lead.
Having mic issues there, Chad.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
You're good now.
That's weird. I said one, she needs the lead. I don't know that she's fast enough to make the lead.
She doesn't need the lead.
In what race does she not need the lead?
I don't know. The August 21st race at Gulfstream, she sat off. It was 5.5 furlongs.
But I think she needs the lead.
She can't get the lead, though. So she's going to have no choice. She may get first run.
In what race has she run other than this 5.5 furlong race at Gulfstream? Has she made first run? Every time she's gone a mile and a 16th, she loses ground in the stretch, and now we're going a mile and an 8th. Okay. I do like the jockey switch to Louis Saez, and Louis Saez is going to try as hard as anybody, and he's going to be pumping and pumping and pumping and pumping. But if you pump and there's nothing left, guess what? Your tank's on empty. I
Okay.
don't think she can get a mile in an 8. And I hate to say this to you,
Never knock a 20-1 shot. But go
Luke,
ahead. Knock them all you want.
Luke, I am your father.
Yes.
Next up is the 13 Affirmative Lady. Graham motion trained horse. John Velasquez on board at 10-1, coming off a new top. Ran a 15 last December, then 2 19s to start this year before she ran a 13 last time out in a Grade 2 win at Gulfstream Park. What about the 13, John?
Looks like a bounce candidate to me. Only 10-1, half the price of Darth Vader. No thanks.
It's because she was twice as good last time. They literally ran against each other last time, and she destroyed her. Look, I mean, she won. Darth Vader was like 4th. She wasn't even 2nd. Darth Vader.
Watch.
They both ran 13s.
Look, I think Jonathan
13 before that 13 and paired them up, which is strong, and the other one ran it as a new top. But go ahead.
I think Jonathan needs R2D2 to watch this race with him. But at the end of the day, I don't look. This filly's fine. I like the fact that the connections were aggressive. They thought enough of her as a maiden to run her in a couple of stake races. She ran 2nd at Aqueduct as a maiden. So obviously they were high on this filly for a long time.
Wait, Louis Sayers rode this horse last time too and hopped off. Maybe.
Yeah. Ammo Racing, that owns the horse, is owned obviously by the famous footballer in Europe. So good to see international athletes participating in our sport. But I just thought I don't know how good she is. She worked out a really good trip last time with Louis Sayers in a pickup mount. I don't see this one for me.
By the way, John, Rockface says you can get Darth Vader in UK fixed odds at 40-1.
Well, she may be 40-1 on Friday, so.
The 14 is another.
Is Rockface taking the 40-1 on Darth Vader?
I don't know. Rockface is just giving us all the odds, the fixed odds at UK.
Tell Rockface he can get a hat of his choice. I'll take Mimi Kozinski against Darth Vader in a head-to-head matchup.
All right.
To the wire, not to the top of the stretch. Not to the top of the stretch. Darth Vader might be around to the top of the stretch, but when they get to the wire, I'm pretty sure we're going to be seeing Star Wars 8 or 9, and she's not going to be around.
Okay. The 14, this might be my top play. Pretty mischievous.
By the way, Greg, I hope you're keeping this show for tape so we can play it back next week. But go ahead.
It's never goes away.
Okay.
Brendan Walsh, trained horse with Gaffleone on board, running 2 14s at Fairgrounds the last 2 races, 1st and 2nd of those 2 Grade 2 races. Started her career with a 15 last September. She does have 2 wins in 3 races at Churchill. What about Pretty Mischievous, John?
I give her
Boy,
0.
what do you got going over there, Chad? That thing is really getting annoying.
I have no idea. My car. I have no idea.
Sounds weird. Something's going on this week that's different.
You know, now you're getting to real outside posts. It's not easy to win from the 14, but I don't like this horse. I just don't. I mean, there are faster horses, again, at longer prices.
This filly's going to be my top selection.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. Look.
Oh.
She's been a little bit of a puzzle for trainer Brandon Walsh, but she's shown ability. She's run well in the slop at Churchill Downs before, which is obviously a plus.
2 for 3 at Churchill.
Her victory 2 back was impressive. They were 8 clear of the 3rd place finisher that day. Brandon Walsh was running a horse in Dubai in the Al-Quaz Sprint on March 25th, 26th, whatever day that was. And he ended up not going to Dubai because he wanted to stay at Fairgrounds with this filly and run her in the Fairgrounds Oaks. When she ran in the Fairgrounds Oaks, she was, again, and we talked about it before when we talked about South Lawn. It was a weird race. It was a 5-horse field, and I hate to be one of those guys that picks on jockeys, but I just thought maybe made the move a little too early. She saw daylight, and I don't want to say that she pulled herself up, but I'm not really sure what she did. And she got a little lost out there, and it cost her the race. And, you know, I think they made a little bit of an equipment change here. Tyler Gaffleone's going to hop aboard, who's riding as well as any jockey in the world right now. He's in the middle of a career year, and this could be a really memorable weekend for TG, with Friday and Saturday coming up. I think this filly's sitting on a monster race. I think she's going to run a big race at fair odds. And I know it's an outside post, but it's not an impossible post with her running style. She's tactical enough to kind of get over and get herself in a good spot early on, sit right behind her at early speed, and she'll be the first one to appear when they turn for home. For me, she's going to be in front of Wet Paint and some of the other closers, and they're going to have to come catch her, and I'm not sure they're going to. So I'm going to make this filly my top selection, and Godolphin's going to get there. Oaks, just a few years after his brother Sheikh Hamdan, the late Sheikh Hamdan, got his Oaks with Malathot.
All right. It's been a while since we've had the same top pick, so hopefully that'll work in our favor. Let's go over to picks. John, you mentioned the 12 as your top play. Is that the deal, Darth Vader?
Yes, it is. I'm sticking with Darth Vader. I'm using a couple of horses underneath. For sure, the 5 Wonder Wheel. I guess the 6 Botanical, who I know nothing about, but since my horse is 20-1, certainly Wet Paint has a shot in there as well. So, and maybe a little Flying Connection. I know it's 4 horses underneath, but guess what? I'm keying a 20-1 shot, so there's plenty of room.
All right. Flying Connection.
12 with 5, 6, 7, 10.
All right. Chad, 14 on top. Who else you going with?
I'm going to use Wet Paint, Gambling Girl for Todd Pletcher, and Wonder Wheel.
7, 3, and 5.
And you?
I am going to, again, the 14 up top, and I'll, let's see, I'll add in the 7 and the 10 in that one. 7, 10, 14 with the 14 on top. All right, that's...
Are there any other comments on the Oaks?
Anything else
on the Oaks
before we move over to the Derby, fellas? I don't see anything. I see Bluegrass Dan's talking about basketball. Ed Burke. Let's see. What is Ed Burke saying? No Lies has raced against the best 3-year-old filly this season. I'll try her.
No, listen. A lot of people think that the filly of Bob Baffert's is the best. The regs and sheets don't. The regs and sheets have not been very kind to her so far this year. So the sheets are against Ed, saying that she's the best filly in the country. But we'll find out when she runs in I imagine she runs in the Black Eyed Susan in 2 weeks. Again, this is part of the ongoing Bob Baffert 2-year suspension. Not only can he not run in the Derby, he can't run in the Oaks. And while some other horses like Fort Knox and Fort Bragg and Reincarnate, switch trainers, Michael Lund Peterson elected not to make a switch. He's very much in the Bob Baffert camp, and is
loyalty
on in the Kentucky Oaks for whatever that's worth. Although I will tell you, the last time he ran the Kentucky Oaks, Michael Lund Peterson, it was Gamine, and she tested positive.
Right, so he was suspended there too. Okay.